everybody, and welcome. My name is Sasha Gilbert,
And I am Margaret Loperena.
and today we want to spend a few minutes talking with you about the importance of financial literacy for women. Financial literacy is really just the ability to understand and effectively manage personal finances. And it's so important for women to develop financial literacy skills so that we can make informed decisions, not only about money, but also managing our debt, investing, saving for retirement. Am I right, Margaret?
That is correct because women need to understand how to manage their money because you never know when something is going to happen. However, before that, women should and they are capable of learning how to manage their debt because they are running their household, they're buying the groceries, they're ones picking out, planning, and doing all these things. So that is a great opportunity for them to understand the importance of being able to manage.
Absolutely. And, I think for the longest time, women just didn't make it a priority for a couple of reasons. Number one, women were busy raising their families, managing their households, maybe even working and managing the household. But also, historically speaking, we've always just put the men in charge. The men were just in charge of the money. And so the women, back in the day, they just didn't really take a very active role. And what are your thoughts on whether or not that's the appropriate approach nowadays?
Well, nowadays is equal. Women and men, they come together as one and they plan as one. Back in the day, even though the women may have been very capable of handling the money, but according to society, men were in charge. Men made the best decision. Most men, like at banks and things like that, they would look at a woman and ask, "Well, where's your husband?"
Yeah. Well, luckily, those days are over. And, even if your husband is in charge of the money, that's fine. We all use our own skills and our gifts and talents to manage the household effectively. But even if he is in charge, I think it's so important for women to at least know what's going on. Do you know what's in your bank accounts? Do you have access to the account numbers and the passwords? Do you know if you have life insurance? Like, do you know any of that? Because God forbid something happens to your husband, that's the last thing you want to be dealing with in that situation. It's really important to have a firm understanding of where you and your family are at financially.
That
You
is
know,
correct.
what about women that maybe they've never received a financial education? It's not something that is really taught effectively in our school systems, and it certainly wasn't, even just 5 or 10 years ago. So, what should they do to start to learn about money?
Well, learning about money, or as we would say it, get a good education. We have a program called How Money Works. And we go through the 7 money milestones. But the very first milestone is getting a good education. And we can always start with milestone number one and go forward. There is nothing wrong. You may know something about finances and the financial literacy, but it's always good to have a refresher course.
Absolutely. And, I do love our program. But if you're not going to use our program, which doesn't cost you anything, by the way, eh, there's a lot of things out there that can at least get you started, learning about things like budgeting, saving, investing, and lots of other financial topics. If you have a job, a lot of employers actually have some programs available that might help you. Community centers within your community. Of course, lots of online programs, Facebook groups. There's a lot of information out there. But I gotta say, Margaret, what I really love about ours is that we don't just throw you the copy of the book. Now we do, we give you a copy of the book, which is great,
Mhm.
but you also get a meeting with a financial professional that is just going to have a conversation with you and help you figure everything out and then help you to apply the information from the book to your personal situation. And at the end, what do they get, Margaret?
They get an 18-page financial needs analysis report. And that's very good because it is a snapshot of where you are and where you like to go.
Absolutely. And that it's also going to include recommendations. And so, at the very least, women, you're going to get a very good idea of your current financial situation, as well as some steps you can take to get you to where you want to be. And I just think that that's so important, just to have that foundation. But another thing, I have 9 children. Margaret, I know you're a mother as well.
Yes.
We want to teach our children everything we can to prepare them for, a successful life as adults. Well, if we don't have a solid foundation and we're not financially literate, how are we going to teach it to our children? Right?
There is no way you can teach it to your children. You have to go through it yourself to get a good understanding, and therefore you can guide your children in a positive direction.
Absolutely, you can. You know, I absolutely love teaching my children and preparing them for adult life. And even, by the time they're 2 or 3, you can start doing things with them. We tried the thing where we would pay them to do their chores. Well, they started milking that. So that didn't last too long, but you can give them an allowance. You can teach them even about borrowing and saving. My children, we would take them out and about and they'd want something at the store and they didn't quite have enough money. And I'm like, okay, well, your allowance is $5 a week and this is $10. So I will loan you the other $5, but it's going to cost you 10%. So that means every week when I give you your allowance, you're only going to get $3.50. I'm going to keep $1.50. So do you really want to borrow the money or would you rather wait and get it next week? And just little things like that that really do help them learn about money. What are some things that parents can do to just kind of help prepare their kids?
Well, let me see. There are so many things out there that they could do. Um, they can show them how to set up a budget for themselves. Okay. They can just use their, we're going to use your allowance. Um, Teach them to put part of that money into savings and use the other part to buy things that they need. And then if they save enough, they can purchase some of the things that they want without spending every dime.
Yes. We used to do a technique with 3 different jars. So 10% of their allowance would go to tithe or offering,
Mhm.
whatever charitable donation, you might be interested in, but that's teaching them an important principle. 10% went into savings, and then 10% went into investing in entrepreneurship, getting them to start a business. For example, we live on a farm, and so one of my daughters, she got chickens, and she did
Mhm.
this 3 years ago before the price of eggs skyrocketed, so she was already in pretty good shape. She used to sell them for $1 a dozen. Well, now organic free-range chicken eggs, she can get 8, 9, $10 a dozen. So, good job, daughter. That was a good thing. And all of my children have, found one thing or another. One of my daughters wants to be a baker. They recently changed the laws in our state so she could actually sell her items legally. She can even create a partnership with some of our local grocery store chains. Now, we don't have time for that, but she could in theory. And so just having your kids divided up to start investing in themselves and their
Yes.
future and giving back to the community, I think is really cool.
Yes, it is. It's really, really cool.
Well, Margaret, you can help me out with my kids, and when you come visit, we can play Monopoly. That's a really fun way for them to really see what you can do with money and why mommy always wins. Well, Margaret, I just want to bring up a couple more things here. And one of those would be retirement planning, because, women do tend to live longer than men.
Yes.
But are there any special issues, that women should be paying attention to when it comes to planning for their retirement?
Well, first of all, um, it's true. Statistics say that women live a lot longer than, well, actually about 7 years longer than men. However, the first problem that they may run into is their Social Security. If the man had a uh, very good job, his Social Security would probably be more than the wife's. So she may want to choose to participate or take his Social Security instead of using hers. The life insurance, make sure that you have efficient life insurance on each, the husband and the wife, and also don't leave the kids out. Make sure that they are covered sufficiently. As far as retiring, if they're working outside the home, they may have a 401k. And the market has been so crazy here lately, and they may want to talk to someone about doing something else with that 401k, or investing in other vehicles that may help them.
Now, Margaret, do the financial professionals at Virtual Financial talk about those things? Like, is that an area where we can be helping them?
Yes, that's an area that we can help them with. We can have that conversation. We can hold their hands basically and walk them through the steps that they need to take, as far as finding out how much they have in their 401k, what the market is doing, how it's affecting the 401k, and things like
Right.
that.
I've talked to a few people recently, women that are in their 50s and going through a very, very hard time because they're getting divorced and they didn't see
Yes.
it coming.
Hmm.
And so they're reaching out to me saying, I mean, I have like 20,000 in my 401k, but I'm 55. What do I do? And unfortunately, divorce has become acceptable now. There's no more pressure to stay married and work it out and all of that. And so the divorce rate is continuing to rise. And so as women, I just want to put that out there. I mean, I hope that that never happens to you. But if it does, that's part of what we're talking about. If you are involved in your finances, if you are taking an active role in understanding your situation, you're going to make sure that you are in a good position no matter what happens. Whether somebody passes away, whether there's a divorce, no matter what happens,
That's true.
you need to make sure you're in a good situation. And so, Margaret, I'm sure you would agree with me. I encourage you to reach out and let us just have a conversation with you for a few minutes. We can get you a copy of the book. And
Yes.
we can also make you an appointment with one of our senior financial educators so that you can really get a great idea of where you're at and some steps you can take to really have a rock solid financial plan. And on that note, everyone, I just want to thank you for coming today. I hope some of these things are helpful to you. Margaret, thank you so much. As always, a pleasure.
You're welcome.